sketchyGOichie.
Hello everybody, welcome to another sketchyGOichie. In this case I want to pose a fairly controversial question to all of you. Do you feel like working directly from photographs used as reference to make your art is stealing? Again, it is a bit controversial. It's something that is a concept that is it's probably valid. You know, if you're the photographer and someone's creating art off your photography without credit, ideally you would you'd like to A, get credit, and B, get paid for it. I get it. And there's a bunch of rules that apply to usage and all that good stuff. I am not a lawyer, just a guy who draws pictures for a living. So I like to pose to you that if you're somebody like me, who, if you notice the very start of this video, there was a collection of photographs that were kind of shifting and moving around. If you go back to the beginning, you can see that. And that's me taking about 3 or 4 different photographs that I dug up on the internet and used them to create a kind of cobbled together composition of this Darth Maul character from Star Wars Episode 1. I lean obviously in the camp that it is not stealing. It is it's kind of like sampling a piece of music and creating your own original song, and it's taking snippets, not the actual photograph. And I'm certainly not using this for any kind of profit. I literally just did these. I did a series of these illustrated portraits of pop culture figures. Maybe over a year ago, certainly, and posted them on Facebook. And my intent was just to have fun. It wasn't then, and I wouldn't consider myself a portrait artist. There are some folks who have a tremendous talent for capturing the likenesses. I've gotten better through doing literally over 100 of these pop culture characters. If you go into my Facebook, Roger Andrews, just look me up, Roger Andrews. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, all that. It's Rand247 on Instagram and Rand247 on Twitter. So look me up on Facebook. But I did a series of these pop culture things, and in the end I got pretty good at capturing likenesses just because I was working directly from photographs. Speaking of photographs, let's get back to the art. Enough of me rambling. So, zoomed in on old Darth Maul. Photographs, several, at least 3 or 4. I cobbled together in Photoshop to make this happen. Love the composition. In the end, on what I was able to kind of piecemeal and make work. But again, I mean, is it really stealing if you're if you've kind of, I look at it more like repurposing. Not that anyone who created the art or the photographs or did the art direction on this threw it away. They certainly put a lot of their time and energy into making it look the best possible. But I just wanted to do my own thing with it. I wanted to pay respect to the original photography, and I think, hopefully I did, and I was able to do so because I had a really clean image to work from, so that I could capture all the details. And the reality is, in illustration, and that's what this is, that's kind of the way it's done in some cases. I mean, obviously, as an artist, you bring a lot of imagination, and you bring a lot of artistry, even if you're tracing over an image. And in this case, that's exactly what I did. It's a tracing. It's an artful tracing, and hopefully it's, if you're someone who's kind of new to drawing or is trying to find your way in art, you'll discover that if you're working directly from reference, particularly photos, where you've got images of actual thing shot is a great way to kind of pick up on what's going on in the creases of the eyebrow, and what's going on in those sort of, in this case, these sort of tattooed shapes that are on his, I think it's tattoos or paint or whatever it is, the war paint that's on Darth Maul's face. I mean, there's angles and things that if you don't capture them right, they don't look right. They don't play right on the page. So in order to make them play right, I use a photograph. So it feels like I'm being defensive. It's because when I was in art school, it was a major thing. It's like you had to, whenever you generated an image, you had to just, you know, either, especially if it was either from a magazine or from the newspaper, you had to, you know, sit it on the art table next to you and then look at it and draw directly on the art surface, whatever it may be, paper or whatever, and just have that image. You couldn't like take it and photograph it. And then it got to the point in art school many moons ago where we got projectors and we could project the image on the wall or on the large canvas or whatever, and that was acceptable. And then I think certain master illustrators started revealing that a lot of them worked from photographs. They would actually literally shoot, you know, have like photo shoots. So, I mean, if they could have photo shoots and capture these perfectly rendered images from photographs, I don't see why any of us couldn't as well and be happy with the results. And I certainly am in this case, because I love this character and I enjoyed drawing him accurately. So I'm gonna allow you guys to kind of see what's going on here. The reality is, all I'm doing is taking shapes, because let's face it, a face is just a series of shapes, and it's just what makes the shapes appear the way they do to us is how the light hits certain planes along the face and along the cheeks and along the bridge of the nose and in through the mouth and out through the ears, and it's just a series of shapes. And if you really break down the human face, particularly if you're trying to capture a likeness, it's just finding the shapes, finding the dark areas, rendering those in, and then kind of finding the mid-tones and rendering those in, and certainly the highlights. And the reality is, people who are absolute masters at doing portraits have broken the face down into its shapes, and that's how they're able to consistently render quality portraits that look like the individuals they're trying to render. So you can see there where I sort of just I kind of outline an area that's going to be filled in black, and I leave the area that's going to be highlighted out, and I just kind of draw an outline around that entire shape. You're going to see ones coming up within the ear, certainly along his cheek. There it is within the ear. So I literally just outline that shape, that sort of the deepest canal there of the ear, and then I fill it with black. And that is the technique throughout this entire drawing, particularly because this character has a massive amount of black, both on his face and gloves and stuff like that, but certainly in his actual costume. So in doing so, what happens is because I'm doing it in Procreate, there's an ease, and if I was doing this, on a sheet of Bristol board, I'd have to break out the paint or a large Sharpie and get in there and render those black areas in. Same technique ultimately, I would sort of outline the shape, those sort of diamond-like shapes or those triangular shapes, like you see in the cheek area there, and then fill them with black. I would do the same thing, so that way I'd have a nice sharp line where I wanted to have a sharp line. And then I would certainly add in those feathered lines, those sort of tapered lines, to kind of give that area depth. But in Procreate, it's so much easier. I'm sure, I would do it in Photoshop as well. I would fill that line in and I would just select it and throw it in. So I zoom still kind of zoomed in here, but I wanted you to see the shape and just line art without the photo underneath it. All right, moving on. I zoom out here. I think hopefully I speed up the video a bit so you're not languishing through this. And then periodically I kind of check in. In the future, if you'll notice some of these portrait shots, I've sort of I put the photo layer, obviously it's on its own layer, but I put the photo layer with an opacity of maybe 45-50% here. In the future, I lower that opacity to 25-30%. I think part of that is because I got more confident doing these portraits, and I didn't necessarily need to see the underlining photograph as much. I was kind of able to use my experience in drawing zillions and zillions of heads over the years to be able to kind of rely on that more than the photo. Obviously the photo is still hugely important, particularly in picking out these individual shapes, and so that way I know where to fill in those blacks, and where to feather out to, and with the feathering lines, and where to stop, and then all that good stuff. It's all there in the photograph, but at a certain point I kind of I think I guess I let the training wheels off, so to speak, and I just go, I guess I didn't need to see it so clearly. And I think it was also helpful, because I'm working in line art, it was helpful to have the photograph somewhat diminished in opacity, just so that I could see the line art, because it gets difficult to see the darker the image is. So again, I pull out here. This is a point where I wasn't even, I think the photograph was completely off at this point. I was just sort of I knew those shapes were gonna have to get filled in, because I've already put down the line art, and I did that mass field of black there along the bottom. And I decided right here where I was like, you know what? Let me work smarter, not harder. And I was like, let me use the eraser tool to sort of create a lot of those shapes. In other words, kind of do a reversal. Just draw and highlight. I don't know why it didn't hit me earlier. I probably could have saved myself a ton of time. But yeah, just fill the shape with black and then bring back your highlights using the eraser tool. As long as you have the brush setting on your eraser tool the right way there, as you can see it right there, I created a lot of those little folds and stuff just by using the eraser tool rather than going in and outlining the black and filling it. And it saved me. I got to the end of this drawing, I was like, ooh, I'm ripping through this now. Speaking of the end of the drawing, definitely putting the finishing touches on. I think I created another layer for the background, and what that did is it allowed me to sort of, there you go, there's the new layer for the background. And to achieve that, I had to create a third or fourth layer actually, and sort of make a selection, kind of silhouetted the entire shape of Darth Maul, and filled it with white, and then had another layer underneath them. So that way, because the line art in Procreate is transparent, so I needed it to be filled in white in order for me to render on a new layer underneath. But anyway, so there's Darth Maul. I don't think I'm a thief. Hopefully you don't either. But please feel free to comment. I'd love to hear what you think on all those formats. sketchyGOichie. Live your moment. Happy sketching, y'all. Subscribe. Peace.